currently. So our building is closed to the public. The Department of Labor staff is all working from home. Most of the counseling staff, my counseling staff is working from home for the most part. We're providing services over the phone and virtually, with the exception, there's a few things that we absolutely can't provide right now. That's hands-on assessment services, job fairs, obviously, and then we have suspended our 2 DSS contracts. So the Working to Success program, where we're assisting folks who are unemployed get back to work, and then our program for the foster youth, providing them with independent living skills. So we're working on trying to figure out how to do that. One of my #1 priorities is figuring out how to do virtual job fairs, because I think there's definitely a need. We've looked at it quite a bit, and I'm hoping, within the next month or 2, I'll figure out some way to do it.
I think that's a great idea because, sometimes people are hesitant to walk through a door, but if they just have to click on a website and do it virtually, I mean, with the younger folks especially, they're so used to that.
Yeah.
That might be a great way to reach out.
Yes. We're getting, with the Department of Labor not in the building, folks who have UI questions, unemployment questions, are regularly calling, and we're trying to connect them to resources. I picked up my phone just before this meeting started and was trying to help somebody. So we don't have a lot of resources. We're just sharing whatever we can find, and what's worked for other folks, and that's what we're sharing. So, we are working on developing and tweaking our reopening plan, at least for our portion of the services, and, trying to make arrangements to adjust our building to meet those needs of social distancing. As far as over the last year and the current funding, the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act is our largest portion of our revenue. It makes up over 65%. That is money that's passed through New York from the through the state, from the federal government. There have been some holdups, but we have been reassured that we will get our allocation that we're waiting for March and April on Friday. So if we do not receive that, we are going to have to consider potentially doing, something else, whether that's a furlough of staff or whatever. But we have been reassured that money is on its way to us. So I'm holding my breath, crossing my fingers, saying prayers, all of those things.
Would you keep us posted when that comes, or if it doesn't come, so we have a sense of
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll definitely keep everybody in the loop. We are going into the second renewal year for our contract, that RFP that we talked about last year. You guys may remember, and it is on the agenda today, asking you to give the chairperson authority to sign that agreement. So that's probably the next agenda item. We did ask for an increase in our funding, about $23,000, mainly for out-of-school youth services, because of the amount of barriers that the youth that we're dealing with have when they come in. It's taking us a lot longer to provide them with service. And so we have asked for an increase in that, and that was approved. Now, when you look at our budget, you're going to see that the difference between WIOA, it looks like it's going down, but the difference in that is all of our participant expenses are paid through Livingston County now, where before we paid for all of those. That's not part of our budget now. It gets approved and then they pay for that. So that's why that looks off a little bit.
I see that now that you're saying that.
Yes.
I did notice that.
So yeah, I wanted to explain that's all money that's going directly to pay for trainings, tools, clothing, those kinds of things. We have exceeded our contract requirements for participant services this year. We hit that mark in March. So everybody else that we're assisting beyond that is just extra and expected as part of our contract. We're within all of our current spending levels. We did ask for an adjustment from adult and dislocated worker funding to youth to offset some of the additional services we were providing to the young folks. And that was approved in March. So that's WIOA. Our TANF Summer Youth Employment Program, the money was put into the state budget and we're just waiting. At this point, we have not heard that that money is being used elsewise, that it is still allocated. And we normally hear this week or next week what our grant is, and then we have to fill out our reporting requirements as far as how we're going to run the program. So our goal is to serve, I put in my report 40, and that's my low ball number. Like, we're absolutely going to hit my goal is to hit the 40 mark, but I'm hoping we'll serve about 50 youth. And again, we're trying to come up with some creative solutions to provide this program for interested youth this summer. And we're asking for additional assistance and guidelines as far as how creative can we be. So we've been involved in a few discussions about that, and we're just waiting for follow-up. Our Access VR services, we've increased the amount that we can provide this year, and that's we're focusing on trying to do a lot of those services virtually, and you know, we're on point with all of that. Ticket to Work, same. All of our funding is based on our customers achieving benchmarks. So the more that we're able to assist and help them be successful, the more funding we receive for that. So at this point, all of our expenditures are within our spending plan. We don't anticipate any budget shortfalls as long as our funding comes through as it's supposed to. And just, you know, a reminder that no county dollars directly fund the job development program, but we're very appreciative of the amount of in-kind service and assistance that we receive through the county to be able to provide all of these job seeking services to folks in the community. We did have a few staffing changes this past year with Veronica Frost retiring. She had been here for over 35 years. We did promote from within, and then we added a new counselor, Jaden Olson. He is doing amazing. We're thrilled with him. And what a time to come in and learn a new job, but he really is taking it in stride. And one of my big goals for this year was cross-training all of my staff on all of the programs. So the way job development was designed when I came in is, you know, this counselor dealt with this type of population. And now I'm asking for everybody to deal and service and help everybody. So it's more on you know, whose turn it is, so that there's not one, you know, if one person is missing, we don't miss a beat. We're able to continue to provide services to everybody based on all of our different funding sources and requirements.
I think that's a good idea, especially since you don't know, you know, what the future holds as far as how many employees can be in an office at one time, and to have that kind of flexibility, I think, is something that every government agency is going to have to be looking at.
Yeah, and we had started that a while ago, so we're in all those growing pains, and we're working through it and improving our services and our systems throughout that whole process. And, you know, I'm lucky that Mary Spalding, who's been here with us for over 35 years, loves her work and says she's staying. She's gonna, you know, originally she was supposed to be retiring this January, and she's given me at least another year, if not more, she says. So I'm thrilled with that. I will take it. The other big thing that's going on with us here in our department is it's lease negotiation time. Our lease expires on January 31st of 2021. So I've been working with Matt and Jay to to renegotiate our lease. We're in the infancy stages of doing all of that. So, you know, we're hoping at this point to stay in our current location, and we'll see how that all plays out.
Do you have any other locations that you think would be feasible if for some reason it doesn't work out? I mean, I'm thinking about all of the empty buildings in downtown Batavia. And it would be a central location. But I like the location you have. It's not that, but I know that you're in negotiations, so it doesn't hurt to look around.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, the one thing that's a blessing for us is that we've been here for the amount of time that we are, and we are in a back corner. So it's harder for him to fill this space. So I think we're able to get it at a better rate because of that longevity, and because we're willing to be around the corner at, you know, the end of town that isn't as populated. And we are on the bus line, so that makes it so folks can get to us. So, I mean, absolutely, if we have to consider another location, we certainly will do that. But there are some benefits of staying put.
Yeah, just again, we'll just keep us posted, and
Yeah.
hopefully everything works out the way you want. And that space is conducive to the social distancing policies that are gonna be in place.
Yeah, that was one thing that I had mentioned to Jay and Matt. We probably have space that is unused that you know, given different times, we might even want to consider giving some of that space back and reconfiguring. But in this day and age of social distancing, it's going to help us immensely be able to do that in a safe way for staff and for our customers.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Shel.
So Teresa, you talked about being able to provide your services virtually, and we suffer from a lack of broadband here in the northeast corner of Leroy. And I'm just wondering how many of your clients might be overlooked if they don't have that capacity in order to participate. And is that a hurdle that some of your funds can look to mitigate, please?
Excellent question. One of the things that we've had the benefit of being able to do right now is if we're not providing it virtually, we're doing it over the phone. And my staff has held individual appointments with folks, developing resumes, doing interview practice. It's not it's not as conducive, but we absolutely can still provide those services if somebody doesn't have the technology. There are ways around it, and we're working them out. I'll give you an example, TABE testing. So we have to do a test of adult basic education, and we had to get really creative because it has to be monitored and proctored. So we've come up with a system on how we can do that by sealing the envelope, watching them open it, watching them take the test, and then reseal it and send it back to us. So definitely has challenged us, and we've gotten creative. If that person doesn't have internet, then we've been able to do that over the phone using Skype or Facebook Messenger. So we've been able to make it work at this point.
That's terrific. And then another question, most of your youth to work programs, the employer had been identified in previous years as Darien Lake. So with the maybe longer reopening opportunity on the calendar of Darien Lake, where are we looking to place those youth today?
For the summer youth employment program, a lot of what we've done in the past, we're looking to do it differently. We're looking at where can we find outdoor spaces. So maybe working with local towns with their cemeteries and helping them do some beautification. you know, talking potentially with parks and doing some of that. So one of the ideas that we have for summer youth is maybe doing a sanitation crew. You know, we know a lot of businesses, a lot of companies, a lot of county agencies are going to require additional help with all of that. So that may be something that we can fulfill, or working with the school systems, you know, depending on if they're allowed to have youth. You know, there's a lot of questions still to be answered, but we're trying to be pretty creative and come up with outdoor kinds of things, so that social distancing might be a little bit easier. You know, one of the other things we talked about doing, and I don't know if this is going to be allowed, but I would love to do this, is have groups of maybe 5 kids work together with a team leader, and they determine what project they want to do. And they design it from the ground up, and then they make all the arrangements, and then they execute that project, and that would be their summer youth employment experience, and they could put that into a portfolio. So we're trying to be creative.
It's a challenge, I get it, but
Yeah.
it sounds like you're doing what you can do, and we appreciate that. Are there any other questions for Teresa?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Teresa, this is John Delio. I had a call from a constituent, and you had mentioned unemployment insurance. He said it's been well over 7 weeks. And I was wondering if you're hearing these type of situations where they're not getting through. They're filling it out, and then they say they'll call them, and they're not calling them. Also, there's a part 2 to this question. I also had another individual say that they tried with their computer at home and they couldn't get it, but then when they used their phone, they got through. Something to do with, I don't know, Chrome or Gmails or Hotmails or whatever. Do you hear of any of these type of situations that you're at?
John, I hear them all day, every day. The folks who applied early in March are the folks who really are still working. They're still working to get them their money. The folks who have applied recently, the majority seem to be getting through. So, you know, what we do is if somebody calls us, we've put together tons of resources. We have some things that are best practices that have worked for other people. And, you know, the majority, they want they want their money, and I can totally understand that. But 2, they want somebody to actually answer the phone, listen to what their concerns are, and give them some suggestions on how they might successfully navigate all of this. Now, I know that the Department of Labor has worked with Google. They added a new platform. But the biggest struggle is folks have to create that New York ID first, and then file their claim if they're doing it online. So that might be some of what you heard from the one person that you were speaking to.
Mhm.
So, you know, my best suggestion is if anybody has a question, have them give us a call. We're gonna, you know, go through all the resources. It's hard to say for everybody because we have to talk to each individual and find out, did they apply by phone? Did they apply online? When did they apply? But the truth of the matter is folks who applied the earliest are the ones that seem to be still waiting. Yes.
Yes. And should I ask you to put out your number now, or because I know we're live on YouTube and everything, or do I not?
Ready to answer the phone all day tomorrow?
Yeah, we're always ready. We've been taking the calls. We'll continue, and you can definitely call us 585-344-2042. And we're going to do the best that we can to help folks navigate that system.
You are a brave woman, Teresa. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Thanks for the question, John. I know there's lots of people out there that are struggling, and it's true. People miss that human contact, that, you know, going up to a face and saying, help me, and having that
Yes.
ability to resolve something. It's very, very frustrating when all you're dealing with is technology.
Yes.
It's super frustrating. Okay. Any other questions for Teresa? If you do, I don't just unmute and go ahead. Okay, then we're going to move on to your resolution, Teresa. Resolution number 1. Would you like to introduce that?
Okay, this is for our WIOA Workforce Development Board grant for the year for funding. We're asking for approval from the legislature for the chairperson to sign this contract for next year.
So moved.
Thank you, Andrew.
Second.
Thank you, Shelley. Comments or questions on this? I'm assuming that our attorney has looked this over, Teresa?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Okay, if there are no questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Teresa,
Thank you, everybody.
for
Take
the
care.
update. Hang in there.
Yep.
All right, elections. Lori, I know you were on. Who else is here?
I'm here too, Dick
Hi,
Seaver.
Dick.
How you
Welcome.
doing, Madam Chair?
I believe we have a resolution here for a renewal of a contract, electronic printing supplies. Do you guys want to introduce that?
I'm sorry, which one was that again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. Which
Resolution
one first?
number 2, renewal of contract, elections printing supplies.
Okay, yes, that's Phoenix Graphics. Want me to take that, Lori?
Sure, Dick, if you want to.
Okay. Phoenix Graphics is the company we've been using probably, well, before I got here 16 years ago. It goes back to, I think, the previous commissioners, Ed Kane and whatever, but they've been providing our election supplies now for a long period of time. They're very efficient. We of course, bid it out. Our contract right now, the last one was 2 years, and then we had 4-year options to renew. This would be one more option to renew. They're the company that just hurriedly put 40,000 letters together for us to send absentee ballot applications to all the voters in our county, which was 40,000. We really had a time deadline on it, and they were able to meet that deadline. They provide a great service, again, provide all of our ballots and all the supplies that we need for elections. So pretty much, if you have any questions, I or Lori will take them.
All
I'll
right, you'll move that, Shelley. Thank you. Andrew, will you second?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Lori or Dick today on this resolution?
Hmm.
All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
The next one you have, Madam Chairman, would be Clark Moving and Cartage. This is the company that actually takes our electronic poll books to the 23 polling sites we have, provides all the backup material, poll books and everything. They're all bundled up at our office out on Main Street. They've been with us now probably about 6 years. It's a similar contract. I think we have 1 more year on the renewal too. It's subject to our agreement and their agreement. The price is the same this year as it's been for the last 3 or 4 years. They do a great job. We're insured in case anything happened to these machines. They're very expensive, and we've never had a problem with them. They're punctual. They get here. It takes us 2 days to pick them up and 2 days to deliver them. No complaints whatsoever. The girls are happy with them. They keep to their schedule. No problems. So both of us recommend for another 1 year for Clark Appliance.
Motion for
Moving.
approval.
Thanid you, Andrew. Can I have a second, please? Thank you,
Yes.
John. Comments or questions on this resolution? All right, I'm satisfied that this is a company that you guys have had and are satisfied with, and they do a good job for our county, so I'm glad we're able
That's
to.
true,
do
Madam
that.
Chairman.
Thank
All right,
you.
without any comments or further questions, I'll call this vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried as well. Thank you, Lori and Dick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to the next item. Okay, the contract for the software. Steve Zimmer, will you be presenting this now, please?
Mary Ann, just
Yes.
just a point, there's a discussion, the cost of additional election day poll workers, was that pulled? You're muted, Mary Ann.
Sorry, no, I don't have the agenda in front of me, I'm sorry. So, go ahead, sorry about that, guys, I did not realize that.
That's okay. Maybe none of us really want to talk about it. No.
Go ahead, there's a discussion on
want to
the
talk about
additional cost, go ahead.
Well, we are, Dick and I have found that we're going to have a need for more poll workers. And after counting up the poll workers who have decided that they don't want to work on election day or early voting, probably anyone we recruit is just going to fill the spots, and we're not really going to go over with our poll workers. Because after I counted, after I got off the phone with Dick this afternoon, we are down right now 42 poll workers out of approximately 200.
Wow.
They don't want to work on election day. And I'm going to get into it much more in depth tomorrow and find out which one of those, which poll workers are table workers and which poll workers are our coordinators, because that's going to probably make a big difference in how we recruit. But I mean, we've had some luck getting some young people to step forward, but not in the numbers that we probably are going to need. And that's our dilemma. We have an election we have to put on the 23rd, and we need staff to put it on.
So this is the call right now for people who are out there that may want to serve in this
Yes.
capacity. And how would they contact you? What's
They
the
would
process?
call us at 585-815-7804.
And what are the qualifications to do this, and what are the hours that would be required?
It depends on if we use them for early voting, which the hours are going to be different. They're 5 hours on the weekends and they're 8 hours during the week. On election day, it's 5:30 until about 9:15 at night. So it's a long day. But if you're young and energetic and you want to serve your community,
Right,
this
I mean,
is,
it's a sense of civic responsibility as well, right?
yeah, they would be trained by our technicians, and in that training, they would also be able to work for an entire year for us. So if November comes around and we need help, we could pull from that pool then too. So
Yeah, right. That training carries through for a year.
we still are waiting for a couple of, we sent out a survey to our poll workers about probably 12 days ago, and most of them returned it, but some didn't. And so I started calling. I spent the whole day yesterday calling all the poll workers, and some of them I left messages for and I haven't heard back from yet. So hopefully that 42 no's is going to change in the next couple of days when they start returning the phone calls. But we are seeing poll workers that just aren't comfortable going out and sitting during the climate that we're in with COVID-19.
I understand that, I really do. You know, and a lot of our poll workers are older citizens and, you know, considered vulnerable. So we totally, you know, we appreciate the service they've given us all these years, but we totally understand their perspective now.
And Dick and I have made a plan, and I'm telling you, we were out of the gate with this even before the state board started recommending it. that we wanted to have a poll worker that could help facilitate the movement of the voters getting through to get to the table to sign in by keeping the 6-foot social distancing, you know, passing out the little bottle of sanitizer that our emergency management team is so wonderfully providing for us, and just kind of keep a semblance of order during a time that's different. When people vote, they're usually in lines and they're close together. This is going to be a different process, and we want our poll workers to be safe. We want our voters to be safe. And our idea was we would try to hire 23 poll workers that could help our coordinators and our table inspectors, but also help moving the people in.
Right. Well, unfortunately, we have a lot of recent, graduates, college graduates, even high schoolers that are 18 years or older, right? They qualify.
We've been working on them. We're not getting a lot of takers, but
sometimes it's just getting the word out there and, a convenient way to contact you and to know that there is a real need. I mean, I think some people assume they're not talking to me, but really you're talking to everyone who's interested in doing this kind of service. So
right.
Hopefully this will help to get the word out. So they would contact the Board of Elections, and then you would have to probably set up times because you can't have everybody coming all at once with the distancing, right?
Yeah, we've been talking about having trainings in the IT training room. First, we thought about 10 at a time, but we may have to go a little bit lower with that number because it's going to be hard to keep the social distance with that number in that room. But we will get them trained. We just need them. And like I said, at the beginning, we wanted to come and ask the legislature about allowing us to hire 23 more, just specifically to keep our polling places running smoothly and keep the safe distancing and, pass out the sanitizer, make sure that pens that they're using now, the voter's only using one pen and then that pen is going in a basket. But if the voter throws the pen on the floor, like sometimes we see gloves at the grocery store, we want to make sure that we can mitigate anything that could cause any kind of health issue during the day, during early voting and same day voting.
So you just want a sense of approval of somewhat to bring forward a resolution for additional people.
Can I just comment once, Madam
Yeah,
Chair?
go ahead, Christian.
So we've been having a lot of high school kids looking for work. I don't know if there's a way to either develop a flyer that we can hand out or maybe put a press release in the newspaper. But even if we can certify community service hours, or if there isn't some sort of pay, there is a lot of people and a lot of younger folks that are quite bored now. So I would encourage some sort of, whether, again, press release or a flyer or something that we can distribute.
We've been putting it on our county election Facebook page, and we also sent letters out to the principals of the schools, but it hasn't become like, okay, urgent as we feel right now until now. Now we feel that we really have to move on this. I think we have 5 names right now, but we need a lot more. And we probably will start with a press release tomorrow and more direct outreach, phone calls to people we know, school teachers, social workers, it's at the schools, people. We'll just find the way to get the word out that there's a chance to do something very civic minded and help your community and get this
These
done.
are paid, right? These are paid paid
Yeah,
hours,
this would be a paid position.
right?
What does it pay?
Oh, gosh, you had to ask me that, and I know I don't have that.
I didn't get the
Mike.
question. I'm still here. What's the
Yeah.
question?
The pay deck.
Yeah, it's $215. That's basically from 5:30 in the morning to about 9:30 at night. So it's not a real lucrative job. And I wanted to point out one thing. We have 205 poll workers. If Lori's telling me I didn't get this last figure, if we got 30 or 40 that don't want to work or can't
42.
work, we've got to do what we have to do to train more. Because in addition to the regular staff, we want to have some floaters in every one of our polling places to control the 6-foot separation. And I would like to stress again, I know the county is very concerned about expenses, and it is $215 for each worker, but we were directed many years ago that all the expenses for the towns that we run the election, these poll workers, no matter what our expenses are charged back, which comes back to 2 years later. So if we have to hire another 4,000 or 5,000 for what the cost would be, how many people more we need, we're just replacing the ones we already have. But that would be a charge back down the road to the city of Batavia and all the 13 towns, just so we're all clear on that, okay?
I think we have to ensure that people have the right to vote. That's the first and foremost thing we need to do here. And they need to feel comfortable and safe, and we need to protect our poll workers as well. So if you have to hire more people to ensure social distancing and proper sanitary measures, then I think that I would support that. That's my opinion.
Madam Chair,
Thank
a
you.
question.
Yeah, go ahead, Shelley.
Would our manager's office be able to confirm if that would be a reimbursable COVID-19 expense if we have to hire more than what our normal census is for poll workers? Because
That's a great question, because it seems like it would, because we're taking these precautions due to COVID.
We can ask, understand that it's either one of two things, potentially if any of this federal money comes through, but really in terms of FEMA, whether or not they consider this a Part B measure. And we'll talk to Tim Yeager and Bill Schutt and see what we can what we can find out.
I would think that would be a help to cover the concern of that additional expense if it could be.
That's a great point, Shelley. And let's hope. Go ahead, Andy.
How long is the training for the poll workers, and do they get paid for the training?
Yeah, it's a $35 for the training, and it usually takes about 2 hours.
Thank you.
That was a good question as well.
Mary Ann,
Any
can I
other
jump in?
questions? Go ahead.
This is Matt. We had Tammy look into this. At this point in time, the research that we see, these are not reimbursable. We had hope that these additional positions were reimbursable. At this point, all the research that we've looked at shows this is not reimbursable under FEMA.
I just want to say that there's a certain irony to that.
I get it.
The federal government doesn't want to reimburse for election expenses, but we're supposedly trying to run a democracy here.
Don't look for logic.
Maybe that'll change. Maybe there'll be some reimbursements and
Well, and again, if there is a FedStim 4, there's some very broad categories in the 3 tranches as far as that kind of funding coming back to, and what we have timeline wise, over a time into the future, over into 2021 to potentially put those in and discuss with whatever comes out as far as federal legislation is concerned, the opportunity to make that part of our case to seek, up to the maximum amount of funding that they might allocate to a Genesee County.
all right, yes.
Well,
Well,
we'll
we'll keep
that
going.
expense.
Right. Well, we'll go for it if it's there, but I've heard from Shelley. Andy, do you want to weigh in on this as far as your preference?
We got to do what we got to do.
Thank you. John, what do you think?
Yes, I'm for it. And like I said, only government. You can't make this stuff up or they won't reimburse you for COVID.
All right. Any other legislators want to weigh in here? Okay, so I think you have a consensus that if you need additional poll workers, then you should work on filling those
Thank you.
positions as well.
Thank you. Can I close by telling you how many ballots we've processed so far?
Oh, yes, I'd love to hear that.
5,339. The most that we've seen in presidential years is a little bit higher than 2,000. So we are processing ballots, our
Well, that's
applications.
good though. People are still engaged, even though
Application.
we're,
Want to vote?
you know, they want to vote, so that's a good thing. And all that paper didn't go to waste.
No.
All right, thank you, Lori. Thank you, Dick. Anything else?
No, that's fine.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Appreciate the opportunity. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye. All right, so now we have Steve Zimmer for a software and finance contract renewal.
So this is the maintenance contract for the New World Tyler Finance and HR applications. The last 5-year contract ran out this year. So Scott German was kind enough to negotiate a new 5-year contract. That caps the increase at 5% a year, which is high, but it seems to be the going rate with vendors at this point. So this gives us another 5 years worth of maintenance. Without this, you don't get any software upgrades, tax tables, no phone calls get answered. So you can't live without the maintenance.
No, I mean, absolutely. Can I have a motion for this, please?
I would move that.
Thank you,
Moved.
Shelley. Thank you. Any comments or questions for Steve?
Steve, this is Shelley. Is Tyler more apt to support this module of the program in a more efficient manner than they are other modules that we also have?
If you're talking about the cost, this is actually less than what we pay for on the public safety side. We've toned the maintenance down. We eliminated modules that we weren't using. So we took, maybe 3 years ago, we took like $16,000 off the maintenance bill.
So is the Tyler support network as happy to help and answer questions and work through your issues with you that, you know, the other programs that we use with Tyler, there's generally, oh, we've got to get that working. We don't have that working yet, is a lot of times your answer?
Yeah. Actually, the support for the HR and finance side is better than what we get from CAD. Sheila deals with the upgrades on this and they are generally seamless. In fact, we did one 3 weeks ago and nobody knew it. So the support from Tyler for this piece is really pretty good.
Thanks, because having that robust support is important.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. Any other comments or questions for Steve? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is our attorney, Kevin Earl.
Oh, wait a minute.
No,
there's-
we have Scott. Sorry, Scott German. I have the agenda on my phone. And I have the backup on my other thing, and I have the resolutions in front of me. This is what you call multitasking. Okay. So Scott, are you here?
I am.
Hi. So you're going to have a discussion with us about the Stafford collection.
Yeah. Last Tuesday, Supervisor Bob Clement called me asking if my office would be willing to do once again collect taxes for them for 2021. I did tell him that if we were to do so, I was going to be doubling the fee to $5,000. And he told me he and the board is fine with that. And I just want to make sure that the legislators were on board with us doing tax collection for them one more time before I forward the contract to them.
All right, can I, Shelley, go ahead?
Sure. So Scott, what was the basis of your doubling the fee, please?
It took a little bit more time than I expected it to take. And one of the biggest reasons was, well, there's two. Andrew last year thought we should be getting at least $5,000 for this. And secondly, Wyoming County charges about $3.50 a parcel, and that's what this will essentially do. So basically puts us on the same playing field that Wyoming County is charging for the town that they collect for.
Any other comments or questions? Shelley, go ahead, keep going.
So was there an opportunity for you to kind of collect your hours that were associated with this? Or is this just kind of, that's the cost of doing business at Wyoming County, so we're going to use that same rate?
Well, it's hard to come up with an exact fee to charge when you try to calculate this out. And it does, at $5,000 with their 1,400 parcels, it does come out to about $3.50 a parcel. It's sort of a coincidence that it is about the same amount that Wyoming charges, but essentially I doubled the fee because Andrew last year said he thought it should be $5,000. And I kind of agree. It did take a little bit more time than I expected, but not a lot more time.
Well, I just want to make sure that we have some sort of measurement that we can justify that.
Yeah, if another town wanted to, I hope no one else does, but if another town happened to come forward and said they want us to do their tax collection, I'll use that same measure of about $3.50 per taxable parcel.
And just to make sure, you're not asking for an increase of staff hours, is that correct?
I am not.
All right, any other questions from the legislators?
Just a comment. This
Go
is
ahead, Andy.
really not something I think we all agree that we really want to do. The town of Stafford needs us, and now they need us a second year, so we'll accommodate them. But I think we all agree it's not something we really want to get in the business of doing. It's just a matter of, one of our partners needs some assistance, so we're going to assist them.
I totally agree.
That's a very good point, Andrew. This isn't something that we normally do. We're helping the town with a situation that they need our help with, so.
And on behalf of the town of Stafford, thank y'all.
Very good.
Yeah, I will forward the contract on to them then as well.
All right. Is there any other legislator that would like to weigh in on this? All right. Thank you. So we don't have a resolution for that. We just needed to give you direction. So you're all set then, right?
Correct. And I'll be bringing, once they approve their contract and the resolution, I'll bring it to you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to move on to Kevin.
Yes, the first item is a resolution to allow us to increase the additional 1% sales tax for additional 3 years until November 30th, 2023. This is the final step in the process.
Motion for approval.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, John. Comments or questions about this? Really is a formality that we have to go through in order to get this extra 1%. So any legislative comments or questions? I see none. I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? That's carried. And the next one is another formality is to set the public hearing. Correct, Kevin?
Yeah, we're doing the same thing. We're extending the authorization for additional mortgage tax. This has to be by local law. So the first resolution is to schedule a public hearing for the local law.
So moved.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you, Andrew. Comments or questions regarding this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
The next number is the local law itself. I would add, and I put it in my backup, that both of these were sent to separate tax attorneys in Albany to take a look at so that we didn't come in any situation where we passed this and then they had any comments. And the one resolution is a typo in the local law. They had no additional comments. So I'm fairly confident we're all set to get these adopted and passed.
So moved.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you, Shelley. Comments or questions on the local law? It's the same law. We just keep passing over and over. All right. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Next item is a budget transfer. I explained to you in previous times that we had two individuals that broke their quarantine, and we had the necessity to go to before Judge Zambito to get two separate times, emergency orders that basically allowed the law enforcement to arrest them, transferring that to a COVID-19 expense, which we clearly believe will be reimbursable because there was no other reason for this other than the COVID response.
Okay, can I have a motion for this, please?
So move.
Thank you, John. Second, Shelley?
Yes.
Thank you. Comments or questions here?
So I see in your backup, Kevin, that you indicate that these charges are eligible for FEMA reimbursement.
Yes,
So-
that's what we think, yes.
Matt, Jay, do we have Tammy's blessing on this one?
I don't think so. Hey, Tammy. Have
As
you-
we know, there's no guarantees with this, but go ahead, Tammy and Matt.
I'm not sure if Tammy's investigated this one. This is in regards to, we had individuals that were potentially gonna have to get detained for not properly following quarantine directions, and we had to have legal representation for these individuals. I'm not sure if that's something that you have had a chance to look at.
I haven't specifically looked at that. However, it's more fitting towards the guidance that I have read on FEMA.
This was that contract we had with the Monroe County facility. It was, I believe, a hotel or something along those lines. Was that what we're talking about here?
No, that was a little different. That was for people that were voluntary quarantining, but
Okay,
they didn't have a
couldn't do
place
that.
to go. This was some people that we were basically arresting, and
Right.
we had to take them somewhere. We don't want to take them to our jail if they have been exposed or tested positive. So Monroe County Sheriff had opened up a facility. He retrofitted an old jail. And obviously, once we have them in custody, we have to take care of them. So they had a facility that they could provide medical treatment if necessary. So that's what this would
Yeah.
involve.
I think this was something this was a case where someone had the virus, they were active case, and they were put into quarantine. And when they were being monitored, it was found that they were not staying in quarantine, that they were actually going out into the community at the height of what was the community spread.
Correct.
So that was a very serious thing that was happening.
Correct.
Exactly.
So this is why this action was taken, and I believe this was some weeks ago. at the
Yes, it
beginning
was.
of this.
And we had a lot of cooperation with both the Sheriff's Department and the city police to monitor this situation. And that's why also Kevin was able to bring Fred Rarick in and work with Judge Zambito to, again, keep this as tight and controlled as possible.
So I just want people to realize that we did take the situation very seriously, and those people that were a danger to others in the community and that were being monitored for quarantine, when they were found not to be complying, we did take some action here, and this is the result of the expense that we have.
I got a question, Madam Chairman. If some stroke of the imagination, I mean, I believe it should fall under the COVID, but if it doesn't, can we send them a bill for our expenses?
You're talking about the individuals?
Yes.
Well, if you might imagine, the individuals probably aren't in a position, I believe, I don't know that for a fact, to pay the bill. Usually, most people are pretty compliant. So I don't know if we could or couldn't, but certainly I would look into it.
Yeah, I mean,
I would think that this is going to be one of the expenses that would be reimbursed.
I believe so too, but I don't want it to fall back in our lap.
Well, whether it does or not, we still have to take action to protect the members of the community. We can't have people that we know are infected and quarantined going out amongst the community.
Agreed.
And we do need to pay Attorney Rarick.
Yes, so it's one of those things that we're just going to have to do here. Any other comments with regards to this?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Gary?
were these
Go ahead.
individuals actually taken into custody and transported to Monroe County or not?
No, what happened is, as we had hoped, the actual having of the order personally serving upon them and them knowing that if we just saw them, 1 foot off the property, they would be immediately taken into custody. was enough. So fortunate we didn't have to go to that step. And I think as the chairman has alluded to, this, I think there's also a deterrent effect. Other people, that these people know, or other people that are reading about it or hearing about it now, and will have a deterrent effect. So we did not have to have them arrested, but we were ready if we did.
Thank
You
you.
basically had a warrant for that. All right, good question, Gary. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Eve. Are you here, Eve?
I'm here.
Hi, good afternoon. You have a resolution for management work clothing. Highway
Right.
facilities.
It's
Go
for
ahead.
Facilities management, highway and central services, cleaners and custodians. It's the third and final one-year renewal of a contract that we put in place using a bid. The contract price has not increased at all, and I recommend that we sign up for this renewal of the contract.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion? Thank you, Shelley. Second, please. Thank you, John. Comments or questions regarding this?
I would like to add that I did do a little bit of research today to ensure that we actually do have to supply uniforms to these workers as part of their union contracts.
And I'm assuming we do.
Yes.
Yes. Has there been any changes in, the amount of uniforms or anything regarding that with the current situation we're in? How they rotate their uniforms? Are we good?
We're good. Yep, they have like 11 sets, I believe it is, and some of them utilize the laundry services as part of that, and some of them don't. My cleaners all wash their own uniforms, even though laundry is provided should they choose to use it. But I think that they just like having that control and knowing that their uniforms are as clean as they want them to be.
Well, I'm just wondering, with the restrictions that we're having, should we not require that they be sent out to be laundered? Because how do we really know?
Well, right now it's up to the employee. If they want to send them out, they can. And if they want to wash them themselves, they can choose to do that.
How do you know if they're washing them?
We don't.
That's what I'm saying. As far as if you're trying to,
I mean, I guess how do we know?
I'm just wondering.
I
I don't
mean,
know if anybody else has any thoughts, but that's.
Tim, might you have some insight with regard to your and Paul's workforce?
I know the facilities guys, a lot of them send them out for cleaning. The few guys at the highway that still get work pants, and the guys in the shop get them, they send them out for cleaning too. Cintas picks them up here at highway. There are a few that prefer to have them washed at home just because they don't want to monkey around with trading them out every week. So it's kind of 50-50 in terms of people that launder it and people that do it at home.
All right, just as long as, that's a safe way to be. I mean, if something occurs that we need to change it, we'll have to look at that. I don't know. All right.
So Marianne, if I may, while we had staff that was at home, did we put their uniforms on hold, on pause to preserve some cash on behalf of the county? I know that when I have folks that I know are off the uniform program, I kind of put them on hold because it's cash I don't want going out the door.
Mm-hmm. I think if we were to do that, we have not done that. If we were to do that, we'd have to actually return the uniforms that they have in their possession and then get them reissued when they come back to work. I can look into doing that. It's,
I see what Legislator Stein's saying here, but why are we paying them to wash uniforms that they haven't been wearing?
We didn't do it primarily because we were on every other day. So it wasn't like there was a long period of time where there wasn't people to work. They were coming to work every other day, and the uniform company only comes and picks up uniforms once a week. I can tell you that they only charge you for the uniforms that you pick up in terms of laundering. So if there's 11 sets and they only pick up 2, they only charge you for the 2 they take. They don't charge you the full 11.
Okay.
We pay the rental fee for the uniforms, and then the laundering is I think as needed.
Yeah.
But
So just a comment, we have to be so smart about every penny that we spend going forward. It is just incredible how much additional thought we have to put into every action that we take, please.
All right, thank you for that. I think we all agree with that. Thank you, Shelley. Any other comments from any other legislators or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Eve.
Thanks.
Okay, Mike, we're a little off, about 20 minutes off here, but is Mike Sanfrini here?
That's okay. I'm here.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for hanging in there with us.
No problem.
There was just a request because so many people have questions about motor vehicles and how things are going and what you foresee as opening up. And we just wanted to hear from you with an update for our citizens.
Okay. Yeah, with regard to the motor vehicle office, just to give you a little update on what we've been doing. We started out with about 2 staff that were in each day, plus my deputy, Leslie Krajewski, and myself. I've been here every day. We were mostly processing dealer work that we'd already gotten in, that was already in our bin, of which we had a lot of it, and what Dropbox transactions were put in. To our surprise, we were finding that dealers apparently are actually selling a lot of cars right now.
Really?
Good. Yeah. I don't know if they're doing it online or what.
They are.
But we have been able to maintain a pretty good dealer workflow. So my goal was to try to get caught up on all the dealer work by the time we reopened, which we've been fairly successful at. We are not quite caught up, but almost, and the dealer work continues to come in. What we've been doing is, as the dealers get their packets ready, usually they'll call us. One of us will go out, take the packet, bring it in, log it in, and then run it as we're able. And when it's completed, we call them and we hand deliver it back to them. So we've really been trying to keep the dealers happy throughout this period and maintain all the dealers that we have. And we've been successful at that. With the press release we put out, letting people know that we're not currently open, but to use our drop boxes, both in Leroy and here in Batavia. We've seen a huge uptick in the amount of Dropbox transactions that have come in. We check that usually about twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And as I said, we have been doing a pretty high volume of that work. We're able to do anything that you don't have to be in the office for. So we're able to do vehicle registration renewals, transferring registrations from one vehicle to another that's owned by the same person. We're able to do driver's license renewals if they can get an eye test done, plate surrenders. We have started issuing license plates for new purchases to individuals. Originally, we were told we were forbidden from doing that, but the more I was hearing other DMVs were doing it, we started also issuing license plates to Genesee County residents only. Biggest reason for that is we have a very limited supply of plates in our office. Our inventory has been depleted and we have not gotten resupplied on that, so we don't want to run out. The revenues have actually been decent, all things considered. We've, just to give you a couple of quick figures, estimating revenues from 2019, the first 4 months of 2019, we estimated that we brought in about $353,000. That's county funds, not gross revenues, but what actually was distributed to the county. So roughly about $353,000. And in the first 4 months of 2020, we've been roughly around $300,000. So we are below where we had been, but only by roughly about $55,000, which all things considered, I think is pretty good. So in terms of reopening, I don't have a lot more information than you do. Last I'm hearing, we should be part of phase 2. And the date that I hear kicked around, but it's by no means set in stone, is June 8th.
Mrs. Sign is shaking her head, so she has no idea. And she's in the control room, so if she
Yeah.
doesn't know, nobody knows.
We don't know. We're planning, we're doing everything we can to have the office ready to go so that when we do get the call to reopen, we're set. You know, we've put up a lot of plexiglass and got some protocols in place.
And your plans are in place, so you have a plan. And as soon as you're able to open, you are going to open.
We will be ready to go. Yeah, we've increased the staff that's in daily to, we now have 3 cashiers plus Leslie and myself. So we're hoping to have all the dealer work done, each day's transactions that are put in the Dropbox or the mail, that we're able to process all those days' transactions the same day that we open them. So
Are you taking phone calls if people have questions?
we've gotten hundreds of calls per day. And when I say hundreds, the phone rings from the second we walk through the
Wow.
door, 2 to 3 calls at a time from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock, the phone doesn't stop ringing.
So it sounds
Most
like
of
you
them
are
from out of-
providing services even though you're not able to do so in person.
Yes, what we're getting is a lot of out-of-county calls because a lot of counties have stopped answering the phones completely because of their reduced staff. A lot of the counties are very limited in the transactions they're doing, so we're getting calls from not just the Glow region. I actually had somebody call and was asking if we could do a certain transaction that we weren't able to do, and it turns out he was from Schenectady. But he said he just went down the line and called every DMV in the book until somebody answered. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're doing all we can.
That doesn't surprise me that you guys, you've always been high in customer service and catering to our citizens. It doesn't surprise me that you'd be one of the only people to answer the phone.
We are certainly trying our best.
Any questions for Mike or any comments from the rest of the committee?
Mike, so this is Shelley. Just an update about your upstairs, about your recording office. How is that working out for you? I know there was a concern about real estate transactions, grinding to a halt.
Yeah. Upstairs, we again have reduced staff. We have 2 recording clerks in each day, plus Steve Grice, who's been fantastic. We're processing all of the transactions that come in through both e-recording, and that's e-recording is recording land documents. And then we have e-filing, which is civil filings. And luckily we implemented that last year, so we were already up and running. Surprisingly, we've been very busy with the e-recordings and the e-filings, but a lot of the attorneys, title companies, different law firms that would have normally come in and recorded everything in person have made the transition to e-recording pretty smoothly. So we've been very busy with that, actually. We're anticipating once we reopen, we're going to get a lot more. And the big thing with the upstairs is we've not been able to process pistol permits. And those, we get a couple dozen calls a day asking, when we can start doing pistol permit amendments. So we're anticipating when we do reopen, that's going to be really the thing that really drives us.
Yeah, I imagine that's going to be very busy.
Yeah, in terms of revenues, while I do think our revenues upstairs are obviously down, I don't anticipate a big drop off beyond normal economic, like national economic downturn because of this. But in terms of what we're able to process, pretty much anything that would have been recorded is going to be recorded. Anything that would have been filed is going to be filed. And anybody that planned on doing a passport or a pistol permit transaction will probably still come in anyway once we reopen.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Mike today?
Mr.
From any member of the legislature? Go ahead.
Just in regard to the dealer work and the revenue that we're trying to get, and I always have a concern in regard to whether we're providing a service to the community or whether we're a business trying to get revenue. I think I've asked questions in that regard before. It sounds like we put that in front of maybe trying to give the taxpayer service. Is that just to keep that dollar amount coming in, would we have lost it? Or is that the case where, you know, I mean, I know we're struggling to answer the phone and we don't have the pistol permit office open, but the dealer work out of Monroe County is still getting done. Is there a conflict in regard to that, or do you feel that that's the way we should be doing it?
I do think that's the way we should be doing it. Most of our dealers are from within the county. The dealers that we have that are outside the county, we have longstanding relationships with, that we do try to provide the best service we can to them. And yeah, honestly, we don't want to lose their business. We want to maintain those relationships with them because they do have other options to either go to other motor vehicle offices or to, there is a system where they can do the work themselves in-house. And we are always cognizant of that, and we try to do everything we can for them. When you say prioritize over serving the public, I don't think that that's the case. Any transaction that we can be doing for people, I believe we are currently. When we've gotten extremely busy, the one thing that has suffered is answering the phones. And that is just it's a product of, we have very limited staff. And if it comes down to waiting on the person that waited in line for 45 minutes or an hour, you know, and are up at their window and waiting on that person, or answering the phone, which literally probably 3/4 of the calls that we receive, even outside of this COVID shutdown, on the average day is from out of county. We prioritize the people that come into our office to give us their money.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment, those comments.
Madam
Thank
Chair,
you. Go ahead.
just a question and a comment. First, the comment, in terms of the answering the phone, can we just right off the gate, when you answer the phone, can you ask if they're a county resident?
We could. What do we do then? Do we hang up on them? You know, I don't like to be rude to anybody or ask any of my staff to be rude to anybody. What we may have to do, and this is something I've discussed a little bit with some other people in the county, is we may have to temporarily turn the phones off when we first reopen. That's an ongoing discussion. It hasn't been decided yet, but we may try to change our message to include all the information that we typically get asked when people call, to just include that in a message, but on a temporary basis, focus on the people that come in, because I do anticipate that when we reopen, we're going to be inundated. You look at the 16-year-olds alone that turned 16 in the last couple of months that haven't been able to get their permits.
I've had 2 calls in that regard, Mike.
I'm
I'm sure you've had plenty.
I understand the, you know,
They better drink-
I understand being polite, but I mean, turning off the phones, it is going to end up as a disservice to county residents.
It's true.
The other question I have is,
No, I understand. Quite honestly, though, it's what a lot of DMVs are going to do. It's what a lot of them have already done. And again, it simply comes down to maximizing the resources that we have. And Christian, when I say we get, even just now, hundreds of calls a day, we get hundreds of calls a day. I mean, if we had, you know, the 500 people in line that I anticipate once we reopen, I don't see how we can't do the phones and serve the customers that are waiting in line. If we do end up not keeping the phones on initially, it would be, I would really hope for a short period of time. Just trying to get over that big hump that I anticipate when we first reopen.
yeah.
But it is an ongoing discussion. It has not been decided for sure yet.
And is there an opportunity, I hear you with the Dropbox, and you can do a lot of the transactions that don't require, and you're dealing with the dealers. However, there are county residents and businesses that are needing issuance of plates, et cetera. Is there an opportunity that we can make appointments, or we can serve some residents or businesses in that fashion?
We are currently issuing plates to county residents. We started doing that a few weeks ago. People call, as I said, we provide them with the paperwork, they submit it, we process their transaction, issue the plate, and then we call them and they come back and we hand deliver the plate to them. So that has been being done.
So you can issue new plates to county residents. If we have the
Correct.
proper documentation, we drop it in the Dropbox and someone will get a hold of us.
Yes, absolutely. As I said, as soon as I learned other counties were doing it, we started doing it.
Okay, all right, thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I would say, Mike, I use that Dropbox in Leroy all the time, and you're got stuff coming in from me tomorrow when it gets picked up.
Well, we appreciate you doing your business locally. Thank you.
Those are just the handiest opportunity for us. And I do encourage people to use them because it is effective, it is efficient.
When we reopen, we're going to encourage residents to use the Dropbox wherever possible instead of waiting in line, and we're hoping people do.
And I think people have to realize that, you know, there's a lot of pent up demand. And when you do open, those first, you know, few days are going to be crazy. And so people, you know, they're going to have some patience and realize that we are working and your department's going to work their hardest to get people through. But there's going to be a lot of need out there that hasn't been met. And it's going to take a while before you're able to function, you know, regularly without these long lines that you're probably going to have.
I agree.
Just one more question for our county clerk. Mike, is there cross training that has happened between your recording office and your DMV office so that if a phone, you know, gets routed from downstairs to upstairs, that cross training is a possibility?
The answer is no. In terms of cross training, we do get calls in the recording office for the DMV. We typically the staff will just forward them down to the DMV. In terms of cross training, I've been advised by Human Resources that because while we're the same department, they are separate offices, separate civil service exams, they're separate positions that we're not able to necessarily as one office for the other one. That has been looked into, but at this point, it's not a possibility.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do as well. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chairman, John Dilio. Mike, I got a question on, you said you had limited plates. Is that because of the state's defective plates or it's just a supply chain?
We had been resupplied with the new plates. The state then came and picked them up from every DMV in the state. And we were told that it was because they were defective, that for whatever the defect is, they were not able to be read by plate readers.
Mm-hmm.
And we've not been resupplied with them yet.
So it was the states that gave you the headache.
Well,
yeah.
Whatever the issue was, we're trying to maximize, you know, whatever plates we do have, we're trying to prioritize for county residents at this point.
You're doing a great job, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Any other questions? Appreciate your time, Mike, and bearing with us. I know we're running a little longer today, but I really appreciate what you're doing for our citizens and how you're trying to do the best you can in a kind of a limited situation here. And we wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you will be opening soon. So
we hope so.
Thank you for coming in and sharing some updates with us.
Certainly. Thank you.
Mike.
Sorry, I'm off. We're going to move on to public service referrals, and Legislator Young is going to move those today. So when you're ready, Andy, go ahead.
I'm ready. Thank you. Our first one is a salary schedule amendment, the elimination of one position, changing it to another position.
Do I have a second?
So moved.
Thank you, John. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. The next one
is a contract. We find ourselves sharing services with the towns and villages, and it has been under, you know, really no contract or agreement. We've been urged to create that agreement, and that's what this is right now.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Legislator Stein. Comments or questions regarding this?
I would just say that this makes all sorts of great sense. And we've been doing it since 2006. I know that I was a supervisor at the time that this was created, and it worked well. And as I held that position and as I hold this position, this is how we continue to be part of each other's community and efficient and scrappy with our tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Third one is a budget amendment, amending the capital projects in the highway department.
And we had a long discussion about this at Public Service. Can I have a second for this, please?
Second.
Thank you, John. Any other questions or comments?
Just Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I just continue to have great concern that while we're told that this money is going to be there, how long until it will be reimbursed to us? And I think that that is a significant question that we need to have answered as a county that will be forwarding these funds for these projects.
Tim, do you want to answer? Legislator Stein was in another meeting at the start of Public Service when we had some of this discussion. So do you want to just update what your thoughts were regarding what the revenue coming in for these might be?
Well, there's obviously, I don't think there's anybody in the state, probably not even the governor himself, that could give you a 100% guarantee that this money is going to come out. Our state county highway superintendents association and the New York State Association of Town Highway Superintendents feels very strongly that this is money that's going to come forth. The governor's office has indicated that the infrastructure is important to the recovery of the economy with the virus. And probably more importantly, these funds are all bond supported. So if they were swept back to Albany, they really only represent about 25 cents on the dollar for the cut. So they're not high value targets. Again, that's not a 100% guarantee that we're going to get it. I personally, I'm going to be delaying our work that gets charged to these projects as long as I can, probably into early July. Just to see, get a better feel and read from Albany on exactly what gets cut by the governor. And I would think the deeper we get into summer, probably the less likely that these are a target for a clawback. So that seems to be the consensus of what all the other counties are doing. They're all setting up the projects with their fingers crossed, but they're all going to kind of delay their work just to get an initial read on what's going on in Albany. If it looks pretty ominous in late June, early July that these things might be targeted, we can, I used the term turtle up the other day at Public Service, but we can definitely hold off on doing any of this work. Obviously, it puts us in a really rough spot in terms of our deferred maintenance on roads. We're already, technically speaking, a year behind. We've never really ever caught up from the Great Recession in 08 and 09. It'd be even longer for us to catch up. And the longer you defer, the more expensive things get down the road. So I hope that's not what it comes to, but there's definitely things that we can stay busy with all summer long that are not, things that we would have to charge the capital projects. We've got tons of shoulders. We've got lots of routine maintenance things that can be done with the crews to keep them busy. So there's never a lack of work for our guys and girls to do on the roads. But again, I would say, I said this before, I think 90% confident that we're getting these funds. So that's the best answer I can provide you at this point.
So I just think that another consultation with the county treasurer and understanding that this is 2.29 or $2.3 million. And if we had to hold that for a year, what fund would that come from if we moved forward on these projects?
Right. The discussion of Public Service, we talked about using the infrastructure reserve that's been set up with the money from the nursing home. I believe Scott said there's about $7 million there that could fund this, but obviously you may all want to use that money for other means if the budget next year looks pretty rough. So understood.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments for Tim or questions?
Just that I share Shelley's concern, and just because there's no known facts in regard to where we're going to be at 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the road. So I know are not probably turtling up just yet, but I think we need to be prepared to be.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you do get some kind of inkling that this isn't going to be reimbursed to the level that you think, that we would act accordingly.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. I think we all share those concerns. It's just so frightening not to know what we have coming. It's very concerning. All right, so I will call the vote if there's no other comments or questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
Fourth one is reappointment to the Genesee County Planning Board. In respect to the person we're going to put on there, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name. You can look at your resolution. Unless somebody can help me, I'm going to run with it like that.
All right, thank you. Can I have a second for this?
Second.
Thank you, Shelley. Comments or questions? Just a deep appreciation for anyone that's willing to serve on a board, especially a board that's as important as our planning board. So we appreciate that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
Another appointment, this one to the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. I think I'm going to go out on a limb and try to pronounce this one. Jeanette VZ Post from Oakfield, New York.
All right.
And nobody knows how I did, so unless she's there.
Pam, weren't there two names on this, or is there two?
Luann McKenzie is on there also, a pavilion.
Okay.
Yep, so I would second that. And I would also offer that in serving on this protection board, that they both are very active participants on this committee, and their service and life experience and their skill sets on this board are really important for our community, and thank them.
Can I ask about the resolution? Because I only see the one name on it.
Yeah, Pam, this isn't the same one that was at Public Service. This only has one name.
Yes, I apologize for that. That one this resolution should have both names on it. So I apologize for that. I transferred the wrong one over from Public Service. So for your legislature meeting, it will have both Jeanette VZ Post and Luann McKenzie.
Okay.
So I would move that we add that to this one and with both.
I think we should do that. I think we'll just clear it up here and move an amendment to this to include that name. And Shelley has seconded. So all those in favor to amend this to include the name. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. So there you go, Pam. Just amend that so that it looks compatible to the one that was on Monday's agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we'll move on the amended agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's carried.
All right, my
Thank
last
you.
one then is the grant acceptance for the airport of $69,000 to be used for operations and or debt payment.
So moved.
Thank you. Comments or questions regarding this? Did you want to say anything, Tim? This one, you're pretty sure that the funding is coming. It's 100%.
Yeah, this is being funded through the CARES Act. So it's coming from the federal government. They're providing $69,000 to all of the general aviation airports across the country. It can be used toward any eligible expense at the airport, including any operation expense, even new construction. In discussions with Scott German, we have decided probably the cleanest and easiest thing for Genesee County to do, and really in our benefit, is to put it toward the debt service on the existing terminal and hangar bond, and that would free up an equivalent amount of sales tax that, of course, can be used for whatever you so need it for in the future.
So that's very good news. We'll be able to put this towards that to our new hangar. So that was great. Any comments or questions?
I trust the feds with the printing press better than I do Emerald City in Albany.
Let's hope so. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's carried.
Thanks for the help, Tim.
Thank you, Andy, for doing that.
No problem.
All right, Jay, County Manager.
Yeah, we're gonna have Matt lead in with a snapshot that you asked for, Madam Chairman, with regard to the 2020 budget and some of the savings and other things we've looked at as far as where we find ourselves almost literally as of today. So Matt, take it away.
Yep, we reached out to all the departments last week, asked for them to take a look at their budgets, start giving us an idea. Besides the furlough and temporary savings, which we were kind of trying to track off to the side, what other things they're seeing, anything material they want to bring to our attention, so that we kind of have it on our radar, things that they're hearing from their association. So departments reported back, some reported back that it's minimal, nothing really changed. Some reported more savings or costs. So in general, for what got reported back to us, and we gave them a couple days to get back to us, and in essence, the savings, this is on the departmental level, but there's about right now a net savings about $800,000 on their budgets through the course of the year and going forward, projecting out. So basically, what they did is they reported back that they estimate that their revenues, this is across the county, revenues would be about $1.5 million, $1.6 million down for the year, but that their expenses are going to be down about $2.4 million for the year. So right now they're projecting out about an $800,000 benefit to the county, to the county budget, based on their activities. A large chunk of that was the jail has significant savings over there. They're looking at, I'm going to pull up their number real quick. They're looking at approximately right now, roughly about a net savings of around $370,000, primarily from not boarding out, the medical savings, food savings, so that they budgeted boarding out males and females, and obviously they're not boarding anyone out with a current jail population that floats between 32 and 34 inmates a day. So there's right now about a projected savings at the jail, about $370,000. We also have through the over in the health department where they monitor and track the 3-5 pre-K program. Because of the lack of activity in that area, there's about another $308,000 net savings in that program. So there's about $670,000, $680,000. The rest of the departments primarily were all within, some as little as just not reporting anything because it was so immaterial, and the rest were thousands here and there, a few thousand here, a few thousand there. Everyone is saving on any kind of travel, mileage, trainings, conferences, supplies are, as Tim has kind of coined now that I've been using left and right as turtling up. I think our departments are doing the same thing. So the net effect was right now reported back to us by the departments that they project for the rest of the year for the whole year about an $800,000 impact to the good on the county budget. In addition to that, taking a little bit of time to try to identify some other areas. Scott German was helping us out with some projections and some ideas. He's right now looking at about $100,000 loss in interest earnings he's looking at for the year. But there's also a gain on the tax foreclosure properties that we had for about $131,000, which offsets that. We have some contingency costs that we budgeted for about $85,000 that we don't think we're going to utilize this year. We have OTB revenue that we were projecting for the year that we budgeted for that we're not going to get to about $35,000. $35,000 is what we're going to be coming short. We received some forfeited bail revenue for about $25,000. And then we get into the furlough and the hiring freeze. And right now we're on the conservative side of what we're budgeting. It's always better to be conservative. Where we're thinking that the hiring freeze is very conservatively going to save us probably about $236,000 for the year. And we think that the furlough is going to save us, again, very conservatively, about $160,000. And then we also had asset acquisition budgetary savings that we froze some projects that were already budgeted for in our budget, and that's roughly around $100,000. So when we take into consideration about $800,000 on the departmental level, and then an additional $600,000 through these various measures and means, we're looking right now possibly around about $1.4 million to the good. This is all pre-state cuts. These are all sales tax implications as well. this also doesn't have mortgage tax figured in as well, and that could be another, another 100,000 or so. So, you would ask to kind of take a snapshot to see good and bad. Last week, Marianne, or 2 weeks ago, you kind of wanted to know, what's the word on the street? What are we seeing, both good and bad? And the department heads and their staff, went through the exercise and got back to me. And I guess at this point in time, I'm happy to see that we're $1.4 million to the good versus $1.4 million to the bad. That's certainly good, but it's just we're really it's a wait and see situation right now until we can really see what's going to happen with the state with the state reimbursement on the state aid, and then the sales tax monies, and also stimulus 4. I mean, Stim 4 of some degree, of some nature, that will magnify everything else. If we are to receive a windfall of money to help offset our sales tax losses, the ripple effect is huge, because that would mean the state is also receiving something else, and that they would not need to give pass down devastating state aid cuts that could be anywhere, from a couple million up to $7 or $8 million they could hit us with if they did the 50% cut. So we're definitely it's still cloudy, very cloudy picture from outside factors, but at least in our own house, we do have a little more clear picture, and I think our departments are doing a great job of doing everything they can to save every penny along the way.
Thank you very much, and the department heads for all their contributions to this. I do think it's important for the members of the legislature to have that information, those snapshots.
Yep.
We know that a lot of these mitigation things that we did are not sustainable, that eventually, county government's going to open up, and we're going to have those pre-K expenses again, and those other things that we know are coming. But I mean, it's nice to know we're $1 million or so to the good, but we don't know if that is a 10% advantage, a 5% advantage as far as what cuts come our way. So we still don't know, but
right.
It's good to know that we're taking steps so that we are trying to be prudent here with the funding that we do have. Any comments or questions for Matt with regards to what he just shared with us?
Remember also, Madam Chairman, as we know, when the state budget was adopted, the governor has 3 potential whacks at whatever's coming out of the state of Albany, so to speak, with regard to reimbursements. The April 1st timeline has already passed. We have not seen anything yet, but NISAC keeps telling us that it is imminent. There is then the May 1st to June 30th snapshot he gets to take. And again, he and Mohica get to take another shot based on what is happening with state revenue and their growing deficit. And then he has a July 1st through December 31st shot with regard to, again, making adjustments in payments, reimbursements, even potentially contractual type commitments that we and the state of New York in some cases have had for almost time immemorial. It's all very ill-defined with regard to what is protected as far as that's concerned, with the exception of a very narrow tranche with regard to public assistance payments and part of the social services, shall we say, infrastructure financially. But other than that, the one thing that may help, if it in fact does come in, is that the Fed Stim 4, it looks like the newer bills that are coming out, not the one passed by the House, really are driving at the issue of maintenance of effort. If a state takes funding on behalf of and is part of the distribution to other local governments in the state, they cannot take that funding, utilize it, and then still go ahead and make cuts with regard to aid that is already out there or they've been committing to. So that is something that, again, has a lot of variables to it. But again, the House and the Senate are both looking at the 2 other primary bills that are out there to have that language in there. The HEROES Act did not, but that does not look like that is going anywhere. And our NISAC people last night, again, were telling us that looks like it is strictly a negotiating standpoint, not a viable necessarily piece of federal legislation. It's the other acts that likely would come together if, in fact, this does even materialize. They're now talking potentially into June with regard to anything, and again, that's really an if-come with regard to what the partisan nature of what's going on in between Washington, D.C., plain and simple.
Question, Jay?
Yes, sir.
Is there any talk from the governor's office about reducing any mandates?
Well, that's a question that has been asked and has been forwarded, through with regard to our NISAC people. And again, with the idea that, same thing with the property tax cap. We don't sense that particular thing, because that's been somewhat embedded in statute, so to speak, with regard to a year ago. That's something they may necessarily look at. But the other idea is, if you're going to take away funding for the mandates we are presently paying for with local county shares, what is it that you are willing to do to help us, live to fight another day? So that is definitely a question that is gaining interest around the state with regard to the other counties, and again, where we are now, again, knowing, and we're going to get you an update to the mandate funding sheet that we used a year ago when Chuck Nesbitt was still president of NISAC, that we're updating for a 2020 profile, again, as part of our Genesee County capability of saying, this is what we're up against. What is it you and we can talk about? And again, this is, a very preliminary conversation to be had, but it would at least make some sense to discuss why you keep the mandates the way they are when you're telling us that the funding is not going to be the same.
Thanks, Jay.
Any other comments from legislators or questions for Matt or Jay? All right, thank you guys. I really appreciate that, and it's helpful to know this stuff. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to Pam has a resolution for the mortgage tax payments.
This is the first payment for 2020 of the distribution of mortgage tax.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for this?
Motion
please?
for approval.
Thank you, Andy. Second.
So
Thank you,
Second.
John. Comments or questions regarding this?
Those will be welcome payments by the town, village, and city partners.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
The next meeting of the Ways and Means Committee is Wednesday, June 3rd.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you for all your help with this meeting again. You're doing a great job. I don't have anything today except just to thank everyone who's participated in this meeting and the members of the legislature who are out there talking to their constituents and trying to navigate through all these questions that we are getting on a daily basis. So thank you very much. Any other comments for this committee before we adjourn?
One other thing real quick, Madam Chairman, the resolution you just adopted, that's the highest mortgage tax distribution first payment in the last 8 years. So something else has been going on out there in our economy with regard to what's going on. So, again, like Shelley said, something very welcome to the municipalities that we deal with.
Yeah, and I think it shows that before this
Yes.
pandemic, we had a very strong economy in Genesee County. And
Absolutely. If you remember, Teresa was showing us under 4% unemployment still, and even when it started to tick up. It's now obviously, almost 5 times that, even here locally. But again, this is a picture of a former better time.
Well, and I think our citizens are eager to get back to that time and to work hard and to bring this economy back. And so we just hope that we're able to do that. And the only way we're going to do that is by people maintaining their social distancing and staying home if they're sick and all those things, so that we don't see another tick up that kicks us back into a lockdown, which nobody wants to happen. We need to get this economy back to the way it was, as quick as possible. So I will take a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Shelley, and a second from John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Happy Memorial Day, folks.
Yes.
Be well, be safe, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.